Hi, my name is Rusty, and you're about to hear Gary talk about his stroke. Hi, my name is Gary, and I'm going to talk about the stroke that I suffered on October 2nd of this year and my recovery from it. This episode is going to discuss the latter part of my stay in rehab. I've been thinking a lot about what to tell you about rehab, but it comes down to this. I worked hard every single day and showed improvement every single day. It was not a small thing. I could do something that I talked about every single day that I couldn't do the previous day. Whether it was walk upstairs or walk with just a cane or walk without any assistive device at all, or even something as simple as being able to put on my shirt, or something like throw a ball, or shuffle a deck of cards. These are things that one day I couldn't do and one day I could. The first time, for example, that they tested my strength in my left hand, I had movement in my hand. I could move, I could make a fist, for example, but not strong. I had no strength in my hand. And they measure strength three different ways. What they do is they have a machine that tests your grip. They have a machine that tests your ability to pinch. Two hands above, a thumb below, and then just one finger up and a thumb down. And the first time I was tested, I scored 1.5 pounds of grip strength. 1.5 pounds. Normal is between 90 and 100 pounds. So I had absolutely no strength whatsoever. Now, as one of the exercises they give you putty, and they hide little plastic things, star-shaped things, in it. And your task is to sort of look through the putty with your fingers, thin it out and manipulate it in such a way that you can find these things and put them with your hand into a container. And the first time that they did this, I magically found that I had strength. It took me almost no time to recover my strength. I just had to remind my arm that it existed. And then boom, all of a sudden, strength in my hand. It was almost a miracle. Every day I could lift my arm higher above my head without a problem. I used to be able to just sort of lift it up part way and then lift it up a little bit further. And one day I could lift it up all the way. And the day after that I could do so without any effort whatsoever. It's really something. Towards the end of my rehab, I was able to walk completely unassisted. One of the things that they would do, my occupational therapist, trying, in addition to working my arm, wanted to see me walk a long way. And what he did was we went to the cafeteria and had a cup of coffee. And so we walked through the hospital, through the hidden hallways that only he knows, and to the cafeteria. And we got coffee. We sat down, we bullshitted for a while, and we got up and we left and we walked outside and back up stairs and ramps and things to the front door through leaf-covered, obstacle-covered pathways and curbs and everything like that. And I was able to navigate all of that. I remember being very proud that day. Every Monday, I want to backtrack just a little bit. the rehab there at Memorial had a policy that unless you were specifically being seen by an occupational therapist or a physical therapist, you weren't walking. You were wheelchair bound. Not for any other reason than they didn't want you walking somewhere and falling unattended. They believed that it was a liability issue. So, notwithstanding the fact that I could walk, that I was, well enough to walk fair distances, multiple, inclines, declines, curbs, things of that nature, over 200 feet, I could walk without any significant assistance whatsoever. When I came back to my room, I had two choices. I could go to the chair or I could go to the bed. And when I needed to go to the bathroom, I couldn't just get out of bed or get out of the chair and go to the bathroom. I had to call. I had to use the nurse's call button and say things like, I need to go to the bathroom. And a nurse would come in, and usually I was alarmed. They pin an alarm to you or to the bed, and if there's any significant movement, it goes off with a clitter and a clatter. And so if I was in bed, for example, and someone would come to visit, and I would get up and sit on the side of the bed, which is no problem, the alarm would come. And 3 burly orderlies would come running in. And they'd see that I was just sitting on the side of the bed, and then they'd shut the alarm off for the time being. But even though I could get up out of the chair or out of the bed, walk to the bathroom, do my business, wash my hands, and come back, I needed the company of someone else, and that was a little restricting. Notwithstanding that, I made progress that was significantly faster than most. The fact that I'm relatively a young man for being a stroke victim meant that I was able to put in the work. I could actually do the things necessary to enhance my rehabilitation. And every Monday they had a meeting. The neurological team, the therapists, the doctors, the nurses, all got together and discussed the patients in rehab. And there were only 18 beds in rehab, and for the time I was there were anywhere between 7 and 12 people there. So it was a fairly quick meeting, and they discussed everybody. And when they discussed me, apparently they were so pleased with my progress that they moved up my discharge date from the 31st of October to the 25th. I got a full week of no more rehab, and this happened on, I think, the 22nd. I'm not entirely certain. But I only had a couple of days to deal with the fact that I was leaving. And I had a little bit of uncertainty about that because, first of all, I was very conscious of the fact that I was making a lot of really good progress. And doing the exercises that I was asked to do helped. It just undeniably helped. Where I was a place of help. In addition, I thought that the outside world was a kind of a big place, kind of a scary place. And most of what I did at home meant navigating steps, none of which had any kind of railing. So I felt a little bit of trepidation about going home. Nonetheless, I certainly didn't turn down the extra week reprieve because I was so happy that I'd be sleeping in my own bed, for example, even though I had a peg tube coming out of me that I no longer used. I just wanted to very briefly say that in the middle of my rehab, I passed a barium swallow test and was able once again to swallow, so that the tube they used to feed me was no longer used. Hallelujah in the highest. The only thing was I had to side swallow. In other words, I had to turn my head to the left every time because when I was drinking thin liquids. because the left side of my throat was the weaker side. And when you turn your head, you shut off that part of your swallow reflex. So when you turn your head to the left, you do all your swallowing with the right hand side. So I was able to eat any kind of food at all, with the only exception that I had to side swallow thin liquids. And I got past that readily enough. I was able to front swallow before I left, and when I wanted to, first of all, my this all was handled by my speech therapist, a lovely lady named Nicole, to whom I'll be forever grateful. And I wanted to do some things before I left that I didn't have the ability to do while I was there. The first is multiple swallowing, what I called glug glug glug. One doesn't just take one sip and swallow and put the water down. In the real world, you go glug 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 a couple, 3, 4 times before you put the water down. And I wanted to do that. And she sat with me and made sure that I was able to do it. It was quite a thing. When I left rehab, I was able to do so walking. This was very, very important to me. They had a policy, like most hospitals, that everybody got wheeled out, no matter what. But they made an exception for me. As long as there was someone there walking to the side of me, I would be able to walk out of the hospital and into Vicky's car. And I did. I walked out of the rehab unit on my own 2 legs, no cane, no walker, no anything. I walked out on my own 2 legs, and that, you have no idea how important that was to me. I viewed that as being one of the most significant events of my life. It's hard to believe. I mean, this is only the 14th of November as I sit here talking to you. I had the stroke 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, I was unable to do anything on my left side whatsoever. Confined to a hospital bed with a catheter in me, unable to do anything for myself. And as I sit here today, I am more than capable of doing every sort of activity of daily living. There are almost no vestiges of the stroke. If you're interested, I'm walking all normally, upstairs, downstairs, no railing, no holding on to anything. I have almost perfect balance, except in the wee smalls of the morning. If I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and this could be because I'm half asleep, it could be a vestige of the stroke, but I feel a little unsteady. I feel like I might need to hold on to something in the middle of the night. But other than that, I'm perfectly fine. I have full control of both my hands. I can do anything I want. The only thing that I'm currently unable to do is play my guitar with any sort of ability. That seems to have left me. I've only got maybe 90% in my left hand when it comes to things like writing. Writing is a chore. Typing, I have a lot more typos than I used to. Small muscle control in my left hand is still a little weak, and I work on that every day. I'm still, somebody made a comment, an old friend of mine, hi Johnny, made a comment that I was no longer a lefty, or that I made mention of the fact that I'm left-handed, or at least I used to be. But the fact of the matter is I am left-handed. I find myself eating with my left hand, doing all the things that I used to do with my left hand, reaching for things. I'm a lefty. And even though I have a little bit less coordination in my left hand, that doesn't make me any less left-handed. So if you're interested in what my life is like now, the only hurdle that I have to normalcy is I need authorization to be able to drive again, and that should be coming today or tomorrow. I just have to get my doctor to get up off his ass and do something. It's it's almost a dream. I have almost no vestiges of the stroke whatsoever. Yesterday, for example, I had my stomach tube removed. It's called a PEG tube, PEG. Percutaneous, blah, 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 gastric, blah, blah, blah. I named it Margaret because it's a PEG tube. Even though the phallic implications of it should have necessitated a man's name, I decided nonetheless to call it PEG. But I got that removed, and the only thing left I have is a piece of gauze pad and some surgical tape. And when that goes away, when the wound heals over, I'll have no physical remembrances of the stroke whatsoever. And like I said, this is only 6 weeks in. A lot of people, when they have a stroke, suffer permanent damage. And I seem to have suffered none of that. I count myself fortunate. I worked really, really hard. But sometimes I think I got a little bit lucky too. I don't want to take away the fact that I worked hard, because I worked like a dog every single day to make my body do what I needed it to do. But the fact of the matter is that it could have shaken down that whatever I did, it wasn't going to help. No amount of work might, I could have been in a situation where the damage that was done, no amount of work could have fixed. And of course, almost 30% of people who have a stroke die. Given those odds, given those statistics, I count myself very, very lucky. And even though I'm a changed man from the stroke, for example, every time I get a little headache or something, or every time, I get a temporary, little tinge to the head, a little pain, any kind of headache, I'm a little concerned by that, more concerned maybe than I was before. But the fact of the matter is that I'm the same man I was before the stroke as after, in so many significant ways that I can really only count myself one of the luckiest sons of bitches on the face of the earth. It's just reality. The dice were rolled, and it could have gone really, really bad, but it didn't, and so I'm very thankful for that. Well, I've taken up a lot of your time, and I thank you very much for listening. This was an important series of videos for me to put out. I wanted very much to tell my story, and I'm thankful that you were here for it. It's an amazing thing being able to just shut this computer off, walk upstairs, get a glass from the cabinet, get a glass of water, without any kind of assistance. And if I could offer one piece of advice, it would be this. Don't ever take that for granted. You who have full control of your body, of your faculties, it's a gift. It's a gift that can be taken away with frightening speed and with no notice. And so, if you are my age, mid-40s, and you haven't really checked in with your doctor recently, do so. Me ignoring my health issues, my skyrocketing blood pressure, my taking double handfuls of Advil because I had some mouth pain. I've had some teeth pulled recently that have alleviated that, but my inability to look after my health was a significant contributing factor to my stroke. And don't make the same mistake I did. Please, please, go see your doctor. Find out the things that are wrong with you. Get them fixed. You will thank me for it. Thank you very much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. See ya.